Hello, everyone, and welcome to Weekly Word and Witness of the Sacred Hour, Session 9. In this session, we are covering days 50 through 56, where our study carried us from Isaiah chapter 15, verse 1, through Jeremiah chapter 31, verse 22. Before we delve into everything we covered this week, I want to begin by thanking many of you for the thoughtful questions and reflections you have been sending throughout the week. I truly appreciate the level of engagement you continue to bring to these sessions. This experience was never intended to be something you move through quietly on your own. It is meant to be something we engage in together. You bring your questions and insights, and I have the opportunity to respond and help connect the pieces of what we are encountering in Scripture. So please continue sending your inquiries, observations, and suggestions. I genuinely welcome them, and they enrich our discussions each week. Now let's talk about where we are in the Bible. Over the past several weeks, we have moved through the historical writings of the Old Testament and then into the wisdom and poetry books. Those writings opened the interior life of God's people, how they prayed, how they suffered, how they searched for wisdom, and how they expressed praise before God. But now we have crossed another threshold. We have entered the prophets. The historical books told us the story of what happened. The wisdom writings revealed how God's people reflected on life before him. The prophets bring us God's voice, speaking directly into the life of a people who had wandered. Their words carry warning when the people drift, comfort when they suffer, judgment when injustice grows, and hope for the restoration God still intends. And the first voice we encounter as we step into this section of Scripture is the voice of Isaiah. Our study began in the middle portion of the book of Isaiah. Isaiah served as a prophet in Jerusalem during a period of enormous political and spiritual tension. His ministry unfolded during the reigns of several kings of Judah, and during a time when powerful empires were reshaping the political landscape of the ancient Near East. The chapters we encountered this week include a series of declarations concerning surrounding nations. Isaiah speaks of Moab, Damascus, Cush, Egypt, and Babylon, showing that the God of Israel is not limited to one nation or territory. The Lord governs the rise and fall of kingdoms and holds every nation accountable. Isaiah repeatedly reminds the people that political alliances and military strategies cannot ultimately secure their future. The stability of nations rests not in human power, but in the authority of God. At the same time, Isaiah continues confronting Judah's spiritual condition. The people maintained outward religious practices, yet their hearts had drifted from the covenant they had been given. Isaiah exposes the gap between external devotion and genuine faithfulness. Yet even within these warnings, another theme appears again and again: the preservation of a faithful remnant. God's intention is not simply destruction. His intention is purification and restoration. Isaiah speaks of a future in which God renews his people and restores what has been broken. Throughout these chapters, we also begin to see glimpses of something much larger than Isaiah's own moment in history, a future shaped by God's redemptive purposes. Isaiah writes with remarkable literary beauty. His words carry both poetic depth and prophetic authority, and even in these early chapters, we begin to see why his writings hold such a central place within the Hebrew Scriptures. From Isaiah, our study moved into the opening chapters of Jeremiah. Jeremiah's ministry begins more than a century after Isaiah. By this time, the political situation facing Judah had grown even more unstable. The Babylonian Empire was rising in power, and the southern kingdom of Judah was moving steadily toward national collapse. Jeremiah is introduced as the son of Hilkiah, a priest whom God calls into prophetic service during one of the most difficult periods in the nation's history. In the opening chapters, we see the moment of Jeremiah's calling. God appoints him to speak to nations and kingdoms, to confront what is broken, and to declare what God is about to do. Jeremiah's message carries enormous emotional weight. Throughout the book, we encounter a prophet who loves his people deeply, yet is tasked with delivering a message they do not want to hear. Jeremiah confronts idolatry, injustice, and the repeated turning away from the covenant God established with Israel. Yet, even as he speaks words of warning, Jeremiah introduces one of the most remarkable promises in the prophetic writings. In the passages we encountered this week, Jeremiah speaks of a new covenant, a covenant not written on tablets of stone, but written on the hearts of God's people. This promise reaches far beyond Jeremiah's own generation and points toward a future renewal of the relationship between God and his people. It is a promise that becomes one of the most significant theological connections between the prophetic writings of the Old Testament and the message that will unfold in the New Testament. What we encountered this week, Isaiah's declarations concerning the nations and Jeremiah's prophetic calling, opens the door to the larger world of prophetic literature. The prophets reveal a God who is not distant from history. He is actively involved in the life of his people. He confronts injustice. He exposes unfaithfulness. And yet he continues moving history toward restoration. The prophetic writings show that God's covenant relationship with his people is living and serious. When that relationship is honored, it brings life and stability. When it is ignored, consequences follow. Yet even in the midst of judgment, the prophets speak of hope. God preserves a remnant. God restores what has been broken. God continues moving his purposes forward. And that is the landscape we are now entering as we move deeper into the prophetic books. Remember, every minute you give to God is forming something within you. Keep reading. Keep listening to God's voice. Allow the word to do its work. Stay sacred to your sacred hour.